Welcome to Greenspoon Marder's Cannabis Quick Hits. I'm Nick Richards, the cannabis co-chair and a tax attorney for Greenspoon Marder. And today I have my wonderful partner and colleague, Irina Dashevsky, and she's going to talk to us about, Irina, did we have an election just a few days ago, right?
Feels like a little longer now, but yes, that was earlier this week, Nick.
Yes. So we're gonna talk about rescheduling and state developments, and maybe we're gonna get out our crystal ball and talk a little bit about what we think might be coming, even though nobody knows, right? So Irina, tell us a little bit about your practice, and then let's jump into those state ballot initiatives.
Let's do it. So briefly about my practice, as you mentioned, I'm your co-chair of the Greenspoon Marder Cannabis Group. My practice focuses around regulatory, licensing, M&A work, all things kind of relating to licensing activity, and pretty much nationwide, but definitely focused in east of the Mississippi market, such as Illinois, New York, Florida, Massachusetts, New Jersey, that whole block. So it's a pleasure to be here with these quick hits.
Let me just sing your praises real quick, Irina. Folks, Irina is the bomb, all right? You got a problem, she can solve it, okay? She and I work together on a lot of difficult cannabis situations, and Irina brings so much skill and talent to the table. It is just an absolute pleasure to have her as my
Nick.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. And likewise. I think you're
she wears the red, I wear the black, right?
Yeah, you're single-handedly keeping the industry afloat with your tax creativity.
I'm gonna knock on wood right
now. So let's jump in. There was an election, and I think for the first time in several elections, it was truly a mixed bag as it pertains to cannabis. So 4 states had cannabis ballot initiatives. Guess one of them, Nick.
Florida.
Ding, ding, ding. So Florida, Nebraska, North Dakota, and South Dakota all had cannabis reform on the ballot. So Nebraska had medical marijuana on the ballot, and I'm happy to report that it passed overwhelmingly. I think like north of 70% of voters voted in favor of developing a medical cannabis program in Nebraska. So yay to that. That's pretty exciting. We're always excited when a brand new state comes online, which is what this is. Not so good results in both Dakotas. So looking here, I think we've got both North Dakota and South Dakota did not pass their ballot measures. North Dakota was pretty close. So North Dakota, every couple elections has had this on the ballot. So since 2018, cannabis is on the ballot. And I think, and this is adult use, by the way. So it looks like they went from losing by 59% down to 52.5% in this election. So really, really close in North Dakota. I think, that's a trend that if it's on the ballot again in the next election, we could see it happen. South Dakota was a bigger margin. 56.1% of voters voted against adult use legalization. And then there's Florida, which I think there's a lot of talk before the election, and then after there's going to be a ton of analysis, but the upshot is it needed 60% to pass because it's kind of like a constitutional ballot initiative, and it got, I believe, like 55%. So fell short. It was a massive campaign. I think there was a massive kind of counter campaign coming out of the governor's office, and I think when it really came down to it, it's a really high barrier, 60%, right? Getting 60% of people to agree on anything is really hard. So 55, in my opinion, right? That's a clear majority. So the majority of Floridians want adult use. Florida is currently a medical market, but it didn't happen this time around. So I think that's a difficult place for the industry to be in. I know a lot of resources were spent on that adult use legalization campaign. And that kind of covered
Colorado.
What's that?
They threw Colorado under the bus. When I was there, they kept talking about, oh, we don't want to smell like it smells in Colorado. Folks, it does not smell bad here. It's a great, lovely state.
I would say not only does Colorado not smell, but I would argue that generally Florida's got a long alignment with cannabis usage. So let's not pretend that that's not there, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so folks are consuming cannabis in Florida. And I
And,
think,
and
yeah,
Irina, in the Dakotas, North, South
yeah.
Dakota, was it already medical in one of those states?
I believe it's medical in both of those states because they had, although again, I'm not totally sure in South Dakota, but they both had adult use
Yeah.
ballots.
So it
So
seems like the adult use is getting a lot harder to get traction, huh? That because it passed in Arkansas, right? For medical.
yeah, yeah. I think, look, with respect to medical, most folks know this already, but HHS has a binding kind of finding that it has medicinal value, cannabis does. So I think that proposition of medical marijuana being legal and available for patients through a system that involves an prescription or recommendation or card or whatever it may be. I don't think that's controversial anymore.
Yeah.
We now have a well into the majority of the states have medical programs. So I think that that's right, and that's basically a medicine that people need, veterans, cancer patients, right? Like it goes on. And so you've got some of the most conservative states like Texas and Georgia and Louisiana, everyone's got a cannabis medical program at this point, pretty much everyone. I think all but 4 states.
And if you're not buying state legalized cannabis, you're buying state legal hemp derived THC, right?
Right. And so that's the thing. I think all but 4 states have some form of cannabis program,
Yeah.
right? It's decriminalized in some way, and then in some, even like you take Texas or Georgia, it's a low THC program, but it's there. And one could argue, well, the hemp available, you know, the intoxicating cannabinoid hemp available out there is more intoxicating than these medicinal products. And that's kind of part of the problem for the industry, or right sizing all of that. But these products are prevalent and they're available. And that's definitely the case in Florida.
Okay, Irina, let's get into the controversy. What happened to the feds? What happened at the federal level? We're
So
getting scheduled, right? We're on that, we're on a track, aren't we?
we're on a track. We're not off the track. I don't know that anything happened, right? But as everyone by now probably knows, um, Donald Trump won the election. And so he's the president elect. So that's a different person than the person whose administration initiated the rescheduling effort, which is Joe Biden's administration. And throughout the campaign, people are focusing on what both candidates said. At one point, Kamala Harris sort of came out unequivocally saying, well, cannabis should be decriminalized and descheduled. I think she took like a pretty broad position on that. And I think Donald Trump said a couple things that were not unfavorable, including that I believe he personally would be voting in favor of the ballot initiative in Florida. So that suggests that he doesn't have a per se problem with cannabis. However, his former attorney general, Jeff Sessions, did, and he repealed the Cole memorandum during Donald Trump's first term. So I think there's, certainly reason for potential pause, borderlining on concern about where the rescheduling effort will be. And not because the president, again, has directly, authority or control in this issue anymore, because there's a process underway. There's a rescheduling process underway. There's hearings. But I think the way it shakes out is the administrative review law judge who's going to hold the hearings. They have the list of witnesses, all that. Once that person makes a recommendation, that recommendation, it's not an order. It goes to the attorney general. So whoever will be Donald Trump's attorney general is going to, at the very least, be in the position to stall or expedite that process of reschedule. So not knowing who Mr. Trump's cabinet is, it's hard to sit here and speculate about what will happen with the rescheduling effort. And so I think we all just need to wait and see on that point. But I think the other thing that happened is control of the Senate is clearly Republican at this point as well. And so the question is, any of these kind of pieces of legislation that have been proposed and pending, for example, safer banking, is still out there. Is there a possibility that something happens with that during lame duck if the Democrats and Chuck Schumer really want to make a push at it? It's possible. It's unclear what vehicle would be used for that. But it's, frankly unlikely. And it's frankly kind of unlikely that any cannabis reform coming out of Congress will happen in the next 2 years, I think. And that's not because cannabis is a bipartisan issue in a lot of ways. I think there's a lot of Republicans who support things like safe banking, things like tracking, and security, right? It's just finding a package that everybody can agree to, and then also agree that that's something that needs to occur as an issue that folks should focus on, while there's, a whole heap of other issues that our government needs to address. It's hard to imagine at this moment that with the makeup of Congress and the administrative branch that there's going to be meaningful reform on cannabis coming out of the federal government.
Sounds to me like a lot of uncertainty, but the one thing that is probably certain is it's going to take longer than perhaps a lot of people thought.
I think so, and I think that's something that people have already been feeling before this, right? Like, not a lot of reasons why it hasn't happened yet, and yet it hasn't happened yet. And so, it's just not something I would bank on in 2025. I would love to be pleasantly surprised. So,
Irina, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us. You're awesome. Folks, you can get to us at gmlaw.com. Irina's on our website, and so am I. We'll also be at MJ Biz, and we'll have Irina, we're gonna have the whole team at MJ Biz, right?
What's up, everyone?
Yeah, we're having a great breakfast Thursday morning. If you'd like to come by, please do. Reach out to either Irina or I. We'll get you on the schedule, and we'd love to see you there. Irina, thank you so much.
Thank you, Nick. Bye, everyone.
Have a great day.